Vice President Harris, oftentimes you only get a little bit of a clip here or there from her, not a full sit-down interview. And when you do, there's going to be some news made and definitely some head-scratching along the way.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the President and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made. Pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure.
To say the border is secure is a falsehood. That's a false statement. It's not secure. So that's nonsense, number one. Number two, to make it secure, you have to take definitive action. They're not doing that. And number three, ask the governors, not just of those states on the border, but the states that are receiving a large influx of illegal immigration. Ask them how secure the border is. And the answer is it's not.
We also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border's secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
Well, that's saying it's a priority. That's not saying it's a secure border. Like I said earlier, we have a secure border if your definition of secure border is you have an open border with no security, because that's what we have.
This is the message they're taking to people in the midterm elections. Who cares what the truth is? Who cares the imagery that you see of the southern border? Who cares about the drug crisis, the crime crisis, the homelessness crisis? The cities receiving these illegal immigrants in busloads, and then this statement, it's a secure border.
She did talk about the semi-fascist line when when Joe Biden labeled half of the country is following semi-fascism. That issue came up as well. Listen to Chuck Todd's question and then her answer.
What is a semi-fascist?
Listen, I think that let's not get caught up in politicizing the fact that most people in America know that it is not helpful to our country when we have people who are denying elections or trying to obstruct the outcome of an election where the largest number of people in our country voted for the President of the United States.
The President of the United States labeled half the political opponents, half of the country, as semi-fascist if you supported the former administration. What's interesting to me is when reporters 2 weeks later are drilling down on that, which Chuck Todd sort of did. Like you say, didn't ask the follow-up question. They have no response for this. And my view, Jordan, is that they have no response for this because that issue, the way they put it out there, failed 100%.
Too far. The American people just don't want to define their fellow Americans in that way. Is because, first of all, we know that there's plenty of people who serve our country, whether that's in our military, law enforcement, who voted for President Trump. So this idea to call them semi-fascist, people who volunteer to serve our communities, our country, put their lives on the line for our country, that those people, because of who they happen to vote for politically, are now in this class. When we use that term, you're basically just calling someone a quasi-Nazi.
How much confidence do you have in the Supreme Court?
I think this is an activist court.
What does that mean?
It means that we had an established right for almost half a century, which is the right of women to make decisions about their own body as an extension of what we have decided to be the privacy rights to which all people are entitled. And this court took that constitutional right away. And we are suffering as a nation because of it. We
had separate but equal, too. It's called Plessy versus Ferguson. We had Karematsu, which was the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. So we had Dred Scott. They were wrong. So the court eventually corrected their historically wrong mistake. What did the decision in Dobbs do? It simply returned the issue of abortion to the states, and the states are now dealing with it. But to them, it's an activist court if they disagree with you.
Problem with the left is they have no problem with an activist court when it's their side making up rights that don't exist in the Constitution, reading into statutes, provisions that aren't there, protections that aren't there, legislation that it doesn't exist.
Do you believe the government should put any limit on abortion?
I believe government should not be telling women what to do with their bodies. I believe government should not be telling women how to plan their families. I believe government should not be criminalizing healthcare providers.
No rules at all on abortion.
And no limits to abortion.
The thing is, there's limits on everything in the United. I mean, there are in the United States. The government has to make rules and limits and decision making. And they talk about not legislating morality, but they love legislating what you have to do and mandates and issues like that, unless they don't. I mean, this is when their philosophy is so much more, like we said, it's about outcomes. It's not about process.